Welcome to this video on reporting and system configuration. We start with reporting. Upon clicking on the reports navigation button, we see 5 categories of reports: system users, compliance module reports, courses, sessions, and activities, learning plans, and provider reports. System users addresses CE Manager records for individual users. Compliance module reports, also found in the compliance module, cover credit information for licenses for your organizational tracks. Courses, sessions, and activities involve a multitude of course-related information in your database. Learning plans gives you a more in-depth look at the information about learning plans and their participants. Finally, provider reports give you jurisdiction-specific reporting abilities, such as those required by California, New York, and NASBA. All reports function similarly. Click on the title of the report, populate one or more parameters, and run it. For example, we run the HR export report. We select the status of all active users. And if we wanted, we could change the type of users, but we stick with employee and click Generate Report. Most reports aren't meant to be consumed within CE Manager. It's often best to export them to a file you can look at outside of your browser. To do so, we click the Export button. For most reports, we have 4 options: CSV, Excel, PDF, and Word. If the report is in the exact format that you want, with information in the desired order, PDF or Word are great options. If you want to sort or filter fields, choose CSV or Excel. The report downloads onto our local machine, and we click on it. And we can edit the report here. Let's go back to CE Manager. Another popular report is the Sessions report in the Courses, Sessions, and Activities area. We go back again, and click on Courses, Sessions, Activities before scrolling down to Session Report. Here we fill out a multitude of parameters before clicking on Generate Report. Take some time to familiarize yourself with the existing reports to find out those that may meet your needs. Now, let's take a look at system configuration. This module gives you options to control aspects of the system, such as logos, automatic sending of compliance reports, and the values and drop-down lists throughout CE Manager. As a note, if you are migrating from the old CE Manager system, we will populate most of the system configuration settings for you. Going forward, you have the option to make changes as your needs change. We start with Settings and General. Here we can modify certain items such as the firm name, our main office, sign-in settings, change our logo, update language, date, and time zone, and adjust our policy, such as how long do we want it, and does it require numbers, uppercase letters, and so forth. Finally, we can see in Learner Settings, we have several options. Set sessions to be open to clients as a default. Now, by default, when you create a session, it is not open to clients. If you find yourself constantly switching this to yes, go ahead and check the box. Allow sending evaluation prior to validating attendees. By default, you must validate a user in order to send an evaluation to him or her. If you would like to send evaluations to people who are just registered, make sure you check this box. Allow tentative registrations. If you just want to see 2 buttons in the invite for enroll or decline, deselect this option. Let's move on to Portal. The options in this section control aspects of the Portal user's experience. The Portal is how non-system administrators work with CE Manager. In the Default Settings tab, we start with Branding. See how we can change the logo, change the heading color, and choose which sort of title we would like to see on each page. For example, on the home page, we would like to see, "Welcome to your portal." In addition, we can select learning plans and say, "Check out your learning plans here." If you make any changes, be sure to click on Save. Next, we move on to Settings. Upon logging in, if you wish your users to land on a different page other than Home, you would select that page here, such as landing on the course calendar. In addition, you can set course filters. Two course filters that we may want could be Provider, and we want only our organization, in this case Moore & Warner, to display. As well as for format, we want specific formatted courses to show up, such as online course, online video, and video file. Video settings. Enable Seek Bar allows a person to fast forward or reverse in a video. Enable Makeup for disqualified videos allows a person to make up a disqualified video in the case of missing one or more prompts during that video. SCORM settings operate very similarly. Enable Makeup for disqualified SCORM. If the person is disqualified, he or she can then retake it him or herself without going to you as a system administrator to reset that session. Finally, we see transcript setting. Display certificates for licenses held only. For example, if a user only has the South Carolina law license, but the course he or she takes offers certificates for North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia as well, the user will only see the option to download South Carolina certificates, not the other states. We go to the top. Please note, system roles and custom roles allow you to create and assign custom roles for specific users. Another way to access this functionality is through the roles system configuration area. We will cover that a bit later. Licenses. Here we determine which certificate is used when a person earns credit for a particular license. As an example, California requires a specific certificate from CLE providers. We click on California Law and see that the generic attendance certificate is listed. We want the California specific certificate, so we click on Back and we add a certificate. Track down the California specific certificate by checking the box and clicking on Add. Next, we are prompted for when we want the start date to begin, and we will say 01/01 of 2000. And click on Save. Click on Back to see all of your licenses. If you find yourself continually accessing the same certificates when creating course sessions, click the star in the favorite column so that the license shows up in your quick list. Finally, like many other screens and CE Manager, you can search for particular licenses, such as New York. Email. Here we select which email template we wish to use by default. While the Send Email screens allow you to select any template, auto notifications, such as the Compliance Due to Report email, always uses the default set here. Notifications. Automate the sending of compliance reports to your users with these notification options. All three are similar, but have a few unique characteristics, such as statement that we turn on. Here we select all the licenses we want to include in the compliance report sending. As a note, if a user has only one license, say Connecticut Accounting, when he or she receives their automated email, it will only contain a hyperlink for Connecticut Accounting, regardless of all of the licenses that are selected here. If you have another email template to choose from, you may select it in this field. Next, we move to the cadence on which we want to send these emails. We can toggle between frequency of monthly to weekly and choose which day of the week we wish to send this message. We feel that weekly is a bit too frequent, so we switch it to monthly, and we can choose a time and time zone if we wish. Finally, we have 4 options on how often we want to send. In this case, we wish to send this every 1 month on the first Tuesday of the month. The rest of the options on the Details tab allows us to identify who else should receive these messages. Populate the CC and BC fields for users who should also receive these messages. If you want to send copies to all administrative assistants, be sure that this is selected to yes. And if you want to send to attorney or CPA supervisors, click yes here. Finally, choose whether or not the copied message should include links to the compliance reports or not. Excluded users. If somebody contacts you about his or her wish to not receive these compliance report notifications, click Edit User and click on Exclude Users. Check the box for the desired user and click on Exclude Users. When you are finished with the statement notification, click on the Details tab and click on Save. Notice how the notification is now turned on. We turn it off. Reminder. Here we see 2 new options at the very top. The first option turns off the license notification if the user has completed the listed number of credits. For example, we select 3, which states, remind users if they have more than 3 credits left to complete. If the user has completed, say, all but 2 credits, he or she will not receive email notification for this instance. Also, we can adjust the second option, do not start reminding until a certain percentage, or in this case, fractions, of the current renewal period is passed. We determine if half of the renewal period is passed, please keep sending these notifications. The rest of the reminder notification operates the same as a statement, such as frequency and timing of the notifications and when they are sent. And due to report. Similar to the statement, this automated notification goes to all users whether or not they've completed the requirements. However, with due to report, we identify the number of months before the end of the reporting period to start sending emails. In this case, we switch it from 3 to 4. Let's click on Cancel. And turn it off. We address competency frameworks in another training video. Let's go back to the main system configuration screen. Logs. Inside of here, we see an email log. This gives us a history of all messages sent from CE Manager. Logs can be helpful to determine when a message was created, and the status, the number of people who received it, and when the status was changed. To view the messages sent to specific individuals, click on the name of the message, then click on the 3 blue dots for the individual, and click on View Email. We see the message that the user received, and move on. We click back and see our email log. In the email log, we have 4 filters. We can search on emails, such as those that contain the word federal tax. We can also search on the type of message, such as all those that are compliance statements. We can show the current status. Is it archived or active? And finally, we can sort by email status. If we want to see all of those that had failed, we would click on Failed. Finally, if we have too many email messages in our email log, we can go ahead and archive some. Let's just choose some very old messages, select them all, go to Actions, and click on Archive. We click on the first screen, and we go back to System Configuration. Moving on to security. Here we accomplish tasks such as manually resetting user passwords, adjusting the permissions various roles have, and modifying groups that are also known as distribution lists. Let's start with users. Two familiar filters are Search and View. For any particular user, click his or her three blue dots to access the menu. For Riley Atlas, we can view his details, we can edit him, assign roles, and assign groups. We wish to edit his role. On the Details tab, we can set the user to inactive by doing so, or reactivate him. We can also resend the credentials for the user, or for users who are locked out of the system, we can change their password. Upon entering a new password, confirming that password, and clicking Save, the user will receive an email with his or her login ID and a temporary password. Upon entering those credentials, he or she will then be prompted to change a temporary password to a more permanent password. In addition, we can enter a telephone number. We can adjust the roles of the user. If you have multi-factor authentication enabled, we can enable it. We can require a password reset at next login. Let's go ahead and cancel. Roles and permissions. Assign roles to determine what the applicable user type can do. As an example, employees can be an administrative assistant, an employee, an instructor employee, or a supervisor. Administrators can be administrators, and clients can be a client or a client instructor. Notice how some roles have a padlock icon. This indicates that the system-generated role itself cannot be altered. If your firm migrated from the old CE Manager, you may see a similar role that has your firm's name or initials on it, such as MW. This is for the fictitious firm we are working with, Moore & Warner. Let's start by looking at the Administrative Assistant role. We find the Administrative Assistant role, click on the three blue dots, and click on Edit. On the Details tab, we can see that we have the Employee System Role Type. For users, we can see any users associated with the role, as well as assign additional users. And finally, permissions. On this Permissions tab, we can view what this administrative assistant can or can't do. Note that all options are grayed out. Let's close this role. To make an editable version of the role, we click on the three blue dots and then click on Clone. We then adjust the name to Administrative Assistant, add Program Attendance. And we delete the description. We see that so far, no users have been added, so let's click on Permissions. Upon clicking on Expand All, we see the role's abilities. To enable an administrative assistant to add third-party courses for his or her attorneys or CPAs, in Team View, we check the box for Manage Team and click on Save. Roles are powerful in that we can enable and disable abilities and have everyone belonging to the role inherit those abilities. We save more in-depth tasks in roles for another video. Next, let's move on to groups. Also known as distribution lists, these are groups of users who have something in common. To look at an existing group, we can click on the name, in this case, Construction Auditors. Here we see the current users, as well as how they are added, either manually or by meeting certain criteria. Let's click on Edit Criteria to view that criteria. We can see that practice area is equal to construction, as well as position equals analyst or associate or consultant. Also, we notice if the user no longer meets the criteria, we have two choices. Users will be removed or users will be retained. Let's cancel. Let's click back and add a new group. The wizard takes us through manually adding people And I will name this group Nate's Group. Click Next, and manually add a user. Click Next, view the information, and click on Finish. Now that the group is created, we click on it. We see the manually added person, and now we're going to assign criteria by clicking on Edit Criteria. Our first criteria we will name Department and make the field Department equal to Audit. And we'll add criteria where it says, and this must be true. This will be our location. Select the location field equal to, and we'll say the Denver, London, Los Angeles, or New York location. Finally, if the user no longer meets this criteria, we want those users removed from the group. Let's click on Next and view the people automatically added to this group. If anyone does not belong, we can simply uncheck their status. Click Finish. Let's go back to the main system configuration screen. Templates. This section allows us to modify the email and certificate templates that are generated by CE Manager, as well as modify attendance forms and create evaluation forms. We start with email template. You will send a lot of email messages from the system. Like the roles we addressed earlier, templates with the padlock cannot be edited extensively. If you wish to make more significant adjustments, create a clone of the email template. We clone the certificate email template. Starting with renaming it. Instead of clone, we will call this certificate M&W White. And we'll change the logo. And I drag and drop. And make the background white. Then we add sender information to the bottom of the message. And we'll grab the sender full name. And we are done. Click Preview Email to see what the mess certificate looks like. We close the window. And we click on Back. Use the search field to find specific email templates, such as learning plans. Moving on, we go to evaluation forms. Training feedback is key to continually improving the learning experiences of your participants. Clicking on the CPE evaluation form, we see it in its raw state. Then we click on Preview to see what the user sees. Let's close this evaluation. Click Back. And we create a brand new evaluation. Let's fill in the form name. We'll call this M&W Feedback. And simply click on Save before clicking on Add Content. Next, there are a variety of evaluation fields we can select from. We'll start with Grid. For question, we will list how would you rate the following? And we are going to display comments. Scrolling down, we will enter, please comment on your above ratings. Next, we add sections. And I will copy and paste several of these. Paste and add a section. Paste. Let's add another section. Paste and add one more. paste. Then we go to answers. With this, we could manually enter the types of answers, or we can grab a rating type and we'll say 5 standard labels, high to low. When we're done, let's take a look at preview. If we wish to make any other adjustments, we can go back to earlier parts of this grid question. For now, we'll go ahead and click on Save. And close the box. And click on Back. Attendance forms. When participants show up in person to a training, whether the trainer is in the room or is connecting remotely, you typically want to print an attendance form. In fact, many jurisdictions require this sort of documentation. We click on System Default. This is the default attendance form. If you want to make any changes to the sheet, we have to create a clone first. So we click on Back. And for System Default, we click on the 3 blue dots and click on Clone. We'll change the word clone to M and W with signature. Leave the status as active and click Save. Let's take a look at what we can modify in this new attendance form. We click on Edit Header and see that we can include the firm logo, yes or no. We can change the title of the attendance sheet, add our firm name, and add some additional header text. Next, we can edit info and drag and drop the fields to where we want them listed, or turn them off or back on. Scrolling down, we click on Edit Columns. In this case, we wish to disable the email column and turn on a column for signature and click on Save. As you can see, the signature column is added and the email column is removed. Clicking on Preview, we take a look at what the printed form will look like. We click on Close and click on Back. Certificate templates. Similar to email certificates, if you see a padlock icon, you have limited changeabilities for the certificate. The certificates are those that show up in a user's transcript when he or she is validated for completing a course. Upon clicking the standard attendance certificate, we see what users will see upon accessing it. Click on Edit Properties to view the changes we can make to this certificate, such as include the license number, including the participant signature line, and including the time. We don't save these changes, so we click Cancel. And we click Back. Accreditation forms. With accreditation forms, we click on Add Form, give it a name, NATE's accreditation form. We can select a specific license, such as Colorado Law, and drag and drop our accreditation file. We click on Cancel. Let's go back to the System Configuration main menu and go to Data Management. Throughout CE Manager, you will see drop-down lists such as position title, department, and providers. Here is where you update those lists in this data management area. For example, let's take a look at our locations list. Upon editing the Denver location, we see the fields that we can modify. If you want to add a new office, all we do is click on Add Location and be sure to fill in all the fields that have an asterisk next to them. Let's close this drawer. And we want to add a room. Here we add a room to the New York office location. So we click on Add Room. We call the room Liberty, give it a unique code, anything we want, and location, we tie to New York before finalizing a capacity of 42. Click Save. Now we see if we type in Liberty that the new Liberty room is associated with the New York location. Let's go back to the system configuration menu. Integrations. We go first to the marketplace, where we see integrations with third-party continuous education providers. To see the data feeds from your third-party providers, click on Logs. Here we can click on the name for any desired day and see that we can look up the attendees for the day and an overall log of records supplied from the vendor. Let's go back to system configuration. Looking for support. Access the help guide, which is also accessible via the top header bar. Use the phone number or send an email to get assistance on how to use CE Manager. Thanks so much for watching this video on reporting and system configuration.